we're always told that success is a pretty simple formula, right? Talent plus hard work equals results. But what if that's not the whole story? What if some of the biggest forces shaping our success are the ones we can't even see? Well, today we're going to deconstruct success and find out. All right, to get us started, here's a quick puzzle for you. During World War II, engineers had a big problem. They needed to reinforce their bombers, but armor is heavy. They looked at all the planes that made it back to base and carefully mapped out every single bullet hole. You can see the pattern right here. So the big question is, where do you add the armor? The answer, which came from a brilliant mathematician named Abraham Wald, was probably not what you'd expect. He said to armor the places with no damage at all, like the engines. And why? Because the planes that got hit in those spots, well, they never made it back. The only data the engineers had was from the survivors. And that single insight is the key to, well, pretty much everything we're about to talk about. And that brings us right to our first section, the myth of meritocracy. This is that core belief that so many of us have, the idea that success is something you earn, plain and simple, through talent and hard work. We're going to put that whole idea right under the microscope. You know the story, right? If you're smart enough and you grind hard enough, you're going to make it. It's this promise of a fair world where everybody gets what they deserve. It's a really comforting story, but as we're about to see, it leaves out some pretty major characters. So what's one of these hidden factors? Well, the first crack in this whole myth of pure merit isn't something external. It's actually inside our own heads. It's all about the incredible power of self-belief. Okay, so the technical term for this is self-efficacy. It sounds kinda academic, but it's really simple. It's not just wishful thinking. It's that deep down conviction you have that you are capable of doing what needs to be done to succeed. It's your gut belief in your own effectiveness. So where does this powerful belief even come from? Well, according to the psychologist Albert Bandura, we build it in three main ways. The biggest one is just personal experience. Nothing builds confidence like actually succeeding, especially when it was hard. But we also build it by watching other people like us succeed. And finally, it gets a boost through simple verbal persuasion. You know, when someone you trust looks you in the eye and tells you, you've got this. And Bandura himself said it best right here. Even if you only have modest abilities, just using them well can lead to incredible things. And the flip side is true too. All of the talent in the world doesn't mean a thing if you don't believe you can actually use it. So what this really means is that belief acts like a force multiplier for your talent. Now, let's circle back to our bomber puzzle from the beginning. That story is the perfect illustration of a huge mental trap that shapes our entire view of success. And that brings us to the survivor's illusion. Survivorship bias. It's what happens when we focus only on the winners, the success stories, the things that made it, and we completely ignore all the failures. We're basically looking at an incomplete set of data, just like those engineers who could only study the planes that came back. And this bias is absolutely everywhere once you start looking for it. You know those stories about dolphins saving swimmers? We only hear from the people they pushed toward the shore. We never hear from the ones they might have pushed out to sea. Or think about success books. They study billionaires, but they ignore the thousands of people who tried the exact same things and failed. This bias makes success look like a neat formula, when really we're missing most of the story. So we know our own beliefs matter, and we know our view is totally skewed by looking only at the survivors. But that leads to the next giant piece of the puzzle, the role of just pure random chance. Now we're going to look at a simulation that shows just how powerful luck really is. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. Look at this paradox. On the left, you have talent. In any group of people, things like skill or intelligence fall on a bell curve. Most people are kind of average, with a few at the high and low ends. But then look at wealth and success on the right. That is not a bell curve. It's a power law distribution, where a tiny handful of people have almost everything. So, if success isn't determined by talent, what the heck is going on? So researchers built a computer model to figure this out. They simulated thousands of careers over 40 years, giving everyone random amounts of talent and then hitting them with lucky and unlucky events. And the results were, honestly, they were shocking. This chart shows that the single most successful person in the entire simulation wasn't the most talented. Not even close. Their talent was just a little bit above average. And here is the bombshell conclusion right from the researchers themselves. They found that the most talented people almost never become the most successful. They consistently get beaten by people who are less talented, but way, way luckier. Just let that sink in for a second. Okay, so if success depends so much on things we can't control, what are we supposed to do? Just throw our hands up? Well, no. And that brings us to our final section, redesigning the rules for success. Because this research actually gives us some powerful clues for how to navigate a world where luck is a huge player. Let's start with the big picture. When we understand these hidden forces, we can move past just rewarding the lucky survivors of the past and start designing systems that are actually smarter and, yeah, fairer. The simulation also tested different ways to fund new projects or ideas. The elitist strategy, giving all the money to the people who are already successful, was the absolute least effective way to create more success. So what worked best? Spreading the resources out. Either giving a little bit to everyone or even just handing it out randomly was way better at finding the next big breakthrough. It's about valuing potential, not just past and possibly lucky success. But what about us as individuals? We can't change the whole system overnight, and we definitely can't control luck, but we can absolutely 100% control how ready we are for it. And this brings us right back around, connecting everything we've been talking about. If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Luck is just a random opportunity flying through the air. Self-efficacy, that deep belief in yourself, is what makes you ready to reach out and grab it. Talent helps, for sure, but in the end, readiness is everything. So we'll leave you with this question to chew on. If the world is less of a perfect meritocracy and more of a messy, chaotic system shaped by belief, by bias, and by pure random luck, what does it really mean to earn your success?